Most women believe that moment for a man is purely physical, a biological reaction, a release that ends the experience. But what if I told you that for many men, that exact moment is one of the most emotionally revealing experiences they ever have with another person? Because what's happening then isn't just in his body, it's in his identity. In a world where men are trained to stay composed, to stay strong, to stay in control, there are very few moments where that armor drops completely. And when it does, what comes up isn't just pleasure, it's exposure. In that instant, a man isn't thinking about performance. He's not thinking about technique. He's not even thinking logically. He's feeling whether he's safe, whether he's accepted, whether he's wanted, not for what he provides, but for who he is in his most unguarded state. And here's the part almost no one talks about. That moment often determines how emotionally connected he feels afterward. So if you've ever wondered why some men suddenly soften, attach, or emotionally shift after intimacy, you're about to understand something most people completely miss. Let's talk about what men actually feel and why it matters far more than you think. When we talk about that moment for a man, most people assume it's about sensation. A peak, an ending, something physical that happens and then passes. But emotionally, it's often something very different. For many men, it's one of the rare moments in their lives where they are no longer managing how they're perceived, no longer bracing, no longer performing strength, confidence, or certainty. It's permission, often unconscious, to simply be human. From an early age, men are conditioned to hold it together. Don't overreact. Don't show too much. Don't let emotion leak. Be solid. Be reliable. Be composed. And that conditioning doesn't switch off in romantic situations. If anything, it intensifies. Many men feel a quiet pressure to do it right, to be impressive, to stay in control. So when that control finally softens, what's underneath isn't just desire, it's relief. Relief from being on. Relief from being evaluated. Relief from having to prove something. In that moment, a man isn't asking, was I good enough? He's asking something far more vulnerable, even if he doesn't have words for it. Am I accepted right now? Not for his competence, not for his confidence, but for his rawness. This is why that experience can feel surprisingly emotional for men who don't consider themselves emotional at all. The body relaxes, but so does the armor. And when that armor drops, there's a fleeting sense of being seen without defenses. For some men, that's deeply grounding. For others, it's almost unfamiliar. What matters most here is not what's happening physically, but the emotional environment surrounding it. Does he feel rushed or held, safe or judged, connected or alone in the presence of someone else? Because in that exposed state, he's incredibly sensitive to emotional cues. Tone, presence, warmth, acceptance. This is also why the aftermath can feel meaningful. The quiet closeness, the softness, the desire to stay near rather than immediately disconnect. It's not because something switched off, it's because something real was allowed to surface. For a brief moment, he didn't have to be impressive. He could just exist. And here's the part that's often misunderstood. This isn't about dependency or weakness. It's about authenticity. Men, like women, crave moments where they don't have to perform their identity, where they're not being measured, where they're allowed to be imperfect, human, and present. When a man experiences that kind of acceptance at his most unguarded, it leaves an imprint, not in a dramatic, overwhelming way, but in a quiet, stabilizing one. It creates a sense of ease around you, a sense of trust, a feeling that with you, he doesn't have to brace himself. That's why this moment can mean so much more than people assume. It's not just pleasure, it's permission. Permission to soften, permission to exhale, permission to be human without losing dignity, desire, or respect. When we talk about emotional exposure for men, this is where things get quietly profound, because exposure doesn't always look like tears or confessions or dramatic vulnerability. For many men, emotional exposure is subtle, it's internal. It's the moment when the mental walls they usually keep up go temporarily offline. In that state, a man is often more emotionally open than he realizes. His nervous system has relaxed, his defenses have softened, and the part of him that's usually guarded steps back. That's why his behavior can change in the moments that follow. He might become quieter, more affectionate, more thoughtful, or unusually present. It's not confusion, it's processing. What's happening is that his body has moved out of performance mode and into authenticity. For a brief window, he's not strategizing, he's not proving, he's not managing how he comes across. He's simply feeling. And for men who are taught to intellectualize or suppress emotion, that can feel surprisingly intense. This exposure is also why some men feel deeply connected afterward, even if they didn't expect to. Emotional openness doesn't always announce itself with words. Sometimes it shows up as a desire to stay close, to linger, to feel grounded next to someone who feels safe. In that moment, he's not looking for validation. He's feeling the absence of pressure, and that absence can be powerful. There's also a reason why this exposure can feel disorienting for some men. When you're not used to emotional openness, it can feel unfamiliar. Vulnerability, without labels, can make a man pause, reflect, or pull inward briefly, not because something went wrong, but because something real surfaced, and real emotions take a second to land. This is where a woman's presence matters more than anything she says. Emotional exposure makes men acutely sensitive to tone, energy, and response. If he senses warmth, calm, and acceptance, his nervous system associates that openness with safety. If he senses judgment, awkwardness, or distance, his system learns to close back up next time. That's why this moment can shape how emotionally connected he feels moving forward. Not instantly, not dramatically, but subtly. It influences how comfortable he feels opening up again, how natural closeness feels with you, how much emotional ease he associates with your presence. And here's the part most people overlook. This exposure isn't weakness. It's strength without armor. It's a man allowing himself to exist without control for a moment. That takes trust even if it happens unconsciously. When a man experiences emotional exposure in a space where he feels accepted, something inside him relaxes long term. He feels less guarded around you, less defensive, less like he has to manage himself. And that's often when emotional intimacy begins to deepen, not because of intensity, but because of safety. So when people ask why men sometimes attach emotionally after intimacy, this is why. It's not about dependency, it's about the rare experience of being emotionally unshielded and realizing nothing bad happened. That realization alone can create a quiet, powerful bond. What most people never realize is that in that moment, a man isn't focused on actions the way we assume he is. He's not running a mental checklist of what just happened or rating the experience in technical terms. His attention has shifted inward, his body has softened, his nervous system has slowed, and his emotional awareness is unusually heightened. That means what he's absorbing isn't behavior, it's presence. This is where who you are becomes far more important than what you do. A man in that state is reading the emotional temperature without consciously trying to. He's picking up on your tone, your calmness, your warmth, your ease. He's sensing whether you're comfortable, grounded, and genuinely there with him, or mentally somewhere else. Those signals land deeply because his defenses are down. If your energy says, you're safe here, his system relaxes further. If your energy says, you're being evaluated, even subtly, his system tightens. This isn't about judgment in a harsh sense. It can be as small as emotional distance, distraction, or awkwardness. Men are surprisingly sensitive to that shift, especially when they're emotionally open. They may not articulate it, but they feel it. This is why trying too hard often backfires. When someone is overly focused on performance, it can create a quiet pressure in the space. A man doesn't need intensity in that moment. He needs steadiness, presence, a sense that he doesn't have to be impressive or impressive again. When the energy is grounded and relaxed, he feels accepted rather than assessed. What truly lands is emotional congruence. If your body language, eye contact, and tone all say the same thing, comfort, warmth, ease, his mind associates that feeling with you. That's how emotional memory is formed, not through dramatic gestures, but through consistency. The nervous system remembers how it felt to be near someone when it was unguarded. This is also why some women have a lasting impact on men without ever doing anything extreme. They don't rush the moment. They don't pull away emotionally. They don't suddenly change energy. They stay present. And presence communicates something powerful. Nothing about you right now is too much. In that state, a man isn't craving reassurance with words. He's absorbing reassurance through atmosphere. Silence can feel intimate instead of awkward. Stillness can feel connecting instead of empty. That emotional steadiness creates trust without conversation. It tells him that closeness doesn't come with consequences. Over time, that association grows. He begins to feel more at ease around you in general, less guarded, less defensive, not because he's trying to bond, but because his system has learned that being himself around you doesn't cost him anything. It doesn't require effort or control. That's the real influence of who you are in that moment. It's not about creating excitement. It's about creating emotional safety when he's most open. And emotional safety doesn't shout. It whispers, it settles, it stays. When a man experiences that kind of presence, he doesn't just remember the moment, he remembers how he felt afterward, calmer, closer, more himself. And that feeling has a way of drawing him back again and again, not out of desire alone, but out of comfort. The biggest misunderstanding around attraction is the belief that lasting impact comes from performance, from doing more, trying harder, being bolder, or pushing intensity. But for men, especially at moments of deep intimacy, real power doesn't come from what a woman does, it comes from how safe he feels being himself in her presence. Emotional safety creates something performance never can: ease. When a man feels emotionally safe, his nervous system relaxes. He's not bracing for judgment. He's not wondering if he measured up. He's not scanning for signals that he needs to adjust, impress, or defend himself. He feels settled, and that sense of settling is rare. Many men move through life in a constant low-level state of pressure. Pressure to be competent, confident, successful, and emotionally contained. Emotional safety gives him a break from that. This is why performance-based intimacy often burns bright but fades quickly. It creates stimulation, but it also keeps a man in his head. He's aware of himself, aware of expectations, aware of outcomes. Emotional safety, on the other hand, pulls him out of self-consciousness and into presence. He stops monitoring himself and starts simply experiencing. That's where real connection forms. What's powerful about emotional safety is that it doesn't demand anything from him. It doesn't say be more, it says you're enough right here. That message lands deeply, especially when his guard is down. It allows him to relax into closeness without fear of losing respect or value. And when closeness doesn't come with risk, it becomes something he wants to return to. This is also why women who focus less on proving themselves and more on being grounded often leave a stronger impression. Calmness, warmth, ease, these qualities communicate security without words. They signal that intimacy doesn't require effort or performance, that it can be natural, mutual, and unforced. Over time, emotional safety creates a unique bond. A man begins to associate you with relief rather than pressure, with comfort rather than expectation, with acceptance rather than evaluation. That association shapes how he shows up emotionally. He opens more, he guards less, he feels more connected without needing intensity to sustain it. Importantly, this isn't about becoming passive or dull. Emotional safety doesn't eliminate desire, it stabilizes it. It gives desire a foundation. When attraction is built on safety, it becomes deeper and more resilient. It's no longer dependent on novelty or escalation. It's rooted in trust. This is where real influence lives. Not in trying to be unforgettable through effort, but in being someone a man feels at ease with when he's most exposed. Someone whose presence lowers his defenses instead of raising them. That kind of connection doesn't shout, it settles in quietly and stays. And that's why emotional safety isn't just a nice bonus, it's the core of lasting attraction. Because what people return to again and again isn't what made them feel impressed, it's what made them feel at home. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, it's this: that moment everyone assumes is purely physical is often one of the most emotionally honest moments a man experiences. Not because he suddenly becomes different, but because the mask comes off. And when it does, what he feels in your presence matters more than almost anything else. Men don't bond through performance, they bond through how safe it feels to be real. The women who leave the deepest imprint aren't the ones trying to do the most. They're the ones who create an environment where a man can soften without losing respect, relax without being judged, and feel wanted without pressure. That's where attraction stops being temporary and starts becoming meaningful. And here's the empowering part. This isn't about changing who you are. It's about understanding the impact of your presence. Your calm, your warmth, your emotional steadiness. Those qualities don't just enhance intimacy, they build connection. If this changed the way you see men, intimacy, or emotional bonding, let me know by hitting like. It tells me you want more conversations like this. Subscribe if you want deeper insights into attraction, emotional psychology, and real connection that actually lasts. And share this with a woman who's been told to try harder when what she really needs to do is understand deeper. Because real attraction isn't about doing more. It's about creating a space where someone feels safe enough to stay